Good morning. Joining us right now, Joe DeGenova, legal analyst and former U.S. attorney to the District of Columbia. Always nice to have him. Joe, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I want to start with a story that we were just talking about, and this is because Facebook's being hauled before Congress this week. Mark Zuckerberg going to begin testifying tomorrow before Congress, and with that in mind, there's this story that has popped up about two black conservatives by the name of Diamond and Silk. They're pretty famous because they are fierce advocates for the President of the United States. They say that they were banned by Facebook and they were limited in their ability to reach an audience because they're, quote, unsafe to the community. And they are just on the warpath about this. What could possibly be unsafe about them? And does this put Facebook in any legal peril?
Well, first of all, I think let's see if the Republicans have learned how to conduct an oversight hearing. First question to Mr. Zuckerberg and Ms. Sandberg: how many African Americans were involved in the decision to ban them and to label them unsafe to the community? Question one. Question two: how many African Americans are in the hierarchy of your corporate leadership, and what are their jobs? And finally, how many African Americans work at Facebook, period? What is their percentage of your work population? Those should be the first three questions to Mr. Zuckerberg, for which he will be completely unprepared. Mr. Zuckerberg is the equivalent of the trusts of the 1920s and the 1890s. This is unbelievable that they can do this. This is pure and simple censorship. It's time for massive lawsuits against Facebook, not by just subscribers, because they're probably bound by an arbitration agreement where they can't sue, but people who don't belong to Facebook, who are being denied access to information from Diamond and Silk, have every right in the world to sue, and they should.
Joe, are you for adhering to racial diversity as a standard at a company? Is that, or are you pointing out sort of the hypocrisy here?
It's called irony.
Yeah.
These people cloak themselves in all this liberal BS.
That's
true.
True.
Let's see how liberal they really are. I could give a hoot about what they do. But since they've made it's quite obvious they're frightened to death of black conservatives, no matter what they say, and they say there's no appeal from this, they're stopping free speech. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Let's see how many Democrats stand up for them. You won't find one.
But Joe, let me ask you: they're a privately owned enterprise. It's their playground? Can't they do whatever they choose?
So is General Motors. They get sued.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
General Motors is a private company. They get sued. Anybody can be sued. And the problem with Facebook is of course they're a private company, but they're more than that. They have become the single most important purveyor of public information between people. Now, if Congress wants to say, as a matter of public policy, we will not regulate them because they are private, that's nonsense. They regulate General Motors. What do you think emission standards are?
Right.
That's regulation of a private company. Henry Ford didn't ask to be regulated. The Democrats decided they were going to regulate emissions in the 1970s, along with Richard Nixon. Now, the fact that they're private has nothing to... They can be sued, and I hope they are sued back to the Stone Age. This is racism by Facebook.
Yeah.
Pure and simple racism. Mr. Zuckerberg and Ms. Sandberg are racist. Don't let anybody forget it. If these were white people, Facebook would not be doing this.
Joe, let me shift gears because I want to talk about the fact that the FBI and the Justice Department have not been in any way providing documents quickly enough, or unredacted documents for that matter, to relevant members of Congress.
Right.
We saw that Jeff Sessions has now asked specifically a U.S. attorney in Chicago with overseeing the Justice Department's response to congressional requests for documents. What do you think of the current state of play?
That is a lame effort to insulate them from contempt. If they think that by appointing John R. Lausch II, or Jr., from Chicago, the U.S. attorney, to be the guy who's going to answer questions about this, is going to insulate them from contempt, they are wrong. This is stunningly... I simply cannot believe that I am watching what the Justice Department is doing. I don't know if you saw Christopher Wray's statement. He came off the milk carton for about a 15-minute interval on March 27th to issue a statement. Listen to the first sentence of this statement on records requests. As the director of the FBI, I am committed to ensuring that the Bureau is being transparent and responsive to legitimate congressional requests. The arrogance in that statement to use the word legitimate as if there are requests from Congress that are not is unbelievable. Christopher Wray and Rod Rosenstein have bamboozled Jeff Sessions into believing that they're doing the right thing. This is outrageous. And if the Republicans stand for it, if they do not hold them in contempt, the other day I heard somebody say that the Republicans were thinking of going to court to enforce their subpoenas. What nonsense. Turn the disposition of your records over to a federal court. Hold these people in contempt. The one thing that Chris Wray and Rod Rosenstein cannot stand is conflict. Well, they think they have these pristine reputations. Dirty them up.
There was an Assistant Attorney General, Stephen Boyd, sent a letter over to Devin Nunes last week on Friday. This stunned me, and said that they're making documents available for members of Congress to come and look at, to review FISA applications in person at the department. They refer to it in the letter as an extraordinary accommodation based on unique facts and circumstances. Why should it be extraordinary? These people are in charge, are they not?
Congress has invited this type of arrogance from the Justice Department because they have not held them accountable. The Republicans have done a horrific job of oversight, and the reason is that two speakers in a row, John Boehner and Paul Ryan, have refused to allow, until recently, have refused to allow subpoenas for documents and contempt citations. This is a disgraceful performance by the Republicans. They have invited this type of arrogance by refusing to enforce their legitimate Article I constitutional powers. And as long as they continue to cave in, they will get nothing of any value.
Yeah, Joe, very quickly, we don't have a lot of time left here. Holding them in contempt, what does that do? Because we know that Eric Holder was held in contempt, and it was kind of like a big deal.
It embarrasses them. The most important thing you can do to popinjays like Rod Rosenstein and Chris Wray, who are puffed up little bushy twos, is to embarrass them. Neither one of them wants to be held in contempt. Whether it goes to the U.S. Attorney or goes to the floor of the House, whatever, it's an embarrassment to them, and it is extremely important to embarrass the Director of the FBI and the Deputy Attorney General. Look, these are anti-Trumpers. Make no mistake about it. Chris Wray and Rod Rosenstein are anti-Trumpers no matter what anybody tells you. This performance is an embarrassment. The President is rightfully upset with them. It's just outrageous what they have done to put this president in this bind by refusing to produce documents. Hold them in contempt.
All right, more as usual. Tough words from Joe diGenova, and thank you again, Joe. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you again next week, sir. 7:15 now.